There's a moment that happens to almost every Subaru owner, and it happens at almost exactly the same place on the odometer. You're cruising along, the car's been basically perfect for years, and then somewhere between 95,000 and 110,000 miles, things start to go sideways. A drop of oil on the driveway, a faint whine you didn't hear last week, a shift that hesitates just a beat too long, then another thing, then another, and before you know it, you're staring at a stack of repair quotes that added up would buy you a used Civic. Here's what nobody tells you. This isn't bad luck. This isn't your driving. This isn't because Subarus are unreliable. This is engineering. Specific components inside your Subaru were designed to last a defined service life, and that service life ends in a tight, predictable window that starts around 95,000 miles and closes around 125. The engineers who designed your car know this. The dealers who sell you the extended warranty know this. The technicians in the service bay know this. And now you're going to know it too. Today we're walking through 6 specific components, in the exact order they fail, with the exact mileage you should expect each one to go. Some of these you can prevent for $50. Some of them you can extend by years if you act early. But you have to know what's coming before you can do anything about it. And after this video, you will. Quick note before we dive in, this isn't a generic maintenance video. This is forensic. We're treating your Subaru like a crime scene, and the crime is the slow, choreographed death of components that were never designed to last forever. Subaru, like every manufacturer, designs each part to a specific lifespan. They don't overbuild forever parts because that costs money and adds weight. They build to a target. And the target for several critical Subaru components clusters in a window between roughly 100,000 and 125,000 miles. That's not a coincidence. That's a budget meeting. That's a bill of materials. That's an engineer sitting in a conference room saying, this part needs to last the warranty period plus a reasonable margin, and then writing the specification. If you're between 80 and 120,000 miles right now, you are sitting directly in the blast radius. Stick with me, because the order matters. The component that fails first sets up the failure of the component that fails second. And if you ignore the first warning, you don't just lose one part, you lose the chain. Component 1. The first thing to go, and it almost always goes between 95,000 and 105,000 miles, is the valve cover gaskets. I know that sounds boring. It's not boring. It's the canary in the coal mine for everything that comes after. Here's why valve cover gaskets fail in a Subaru on this exact timeline. They're rubber and silicone. Rubber and silicone don't like heat cycles, and a boxer engine puts the valve covers right out, where they catch every bit of heat coming off the cylinders. After about 100,000 heat cycles, which is roughly what you've put on your engine by 95,000 miles of normal driving, the gasket material loses its elasticity. It gets hard, it stops sealing, and oil starts seeping out. Now, you might not see a puddle on the driveway. The leaks usually start as a slow weep. You'll smell it first, that faint hot oil smell when you park. Or you'll notice the engine bay looks a little grimy where it used to look clean. The fix at this stage is straightforward. Valve cover gaskets, both sides, parts and labor, somewhere between $400 and $700 at an independent shop. If you ignore it, oil drips onto your spark plug tubes. The seals in the tubes fail next. Oil floods the spark plug wells, and now you've got misfires, a check engine light, and a repair bill that just doubled. The window is tight. The fix is cheap if you catch it. The cost goes up exponentially the longer you wait. Component 2. Coming in right behind the valve cover gaskets, usually between 100,000 and 110,000 miles, is the timing system. And which timing component fails depends on what year and engine you have, but the result is the same. If you're driving a Subaru with the older EJ engine, you've got a timing belt, and Subaru tells you replace it at 105,000 miles. They don't say 120, they don't say 150. They say 105 because that's the engineering target where the belt's reliability starts dropping off a cliff. If you're driving the newer FB or FA engines, you've got a timing chain, which is theoretically lifetime, but in practice, the chain tensioners and guides start failing in this same window. You'll hear it as a rattle on cold starts that goes away once the oil pressure builds. That's not a quirk. That's the chain slapping against worn guides. Either way, the cost to fix this proactively is around $1,000 to $1,500. The cost to fix it after it fails, and we're talking about an interference engine that destroys itself when the belt snaps or the chain skips, is $5,000 minimum. The math is the same as the gaskets. Cheap if you act, catastrophic if you don't. Component 3. This is the one that catches the most owners completely off guard, and it lands right around 105,000 to 115,000 miles. The CVT valve body and its solenoids. If you've seen my video on CVT fluid, you know that fluid is doing 3 jobs at once. What that fluid runs through is a maze of tiny solenoids and valves inside the valve body, the hydraulic brain of the transmission. Each solenoid is an electromagnet that opens and closes a tiny port to control fluid pressure to a specific clutch or pulley. They are precision parts running in fluid that, if it's never been changed, has been degrading since the day you drove the car off the lot. By the time you hit 110,000 miles on factory-fill fluid, the solenoids are coated in varnish and microscopic metal debris. They start sticking. The car develops weird shifts, hesitations, RPM hunting, sometimes a flare-up where the engine revs but the car doesn't accelerate proportionally, sometimes a check engine light with a transmission code. The dealer sees the code, looks up the labor, and quotes you a valve body replacement somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. Or they tell you the whole CVT is shot and quote you $8,000. The fix that prevents this is the drain and fill we talked about. $200, done at $60,000 and again at $90,000. And the solenoids never accumulate enough varnish to stick. Skip it, and you're sitting in the service writer's office trying to figure out how to pay for a transmission you didn't see coming. Component 4. Here's the one that makes you feel like the whole car is falling apart, even though it's actually a single specific failure. Wheel bearings. Almost always between 110,000 and 125,000 miles. Subaru wheel bearings are sealed units. They're packed with grease at the factory, and they're not designed to be repacked. They're designed to be replaced, and they're designed to last a specific number of revolutions, which works out to roughly that 110 to 125,000 mile window for normal driving. The first symptom is a faint humming noise from one corner of the car at highway speed. It sounds like road noise at first, the kind of thing you blame on cheap tires. But it gets louder, and then it changes pitch when you turn, getting louder when you turn one direction and quieter when you turn the other. That's the classic wheel bearing diagnostic, and once you hear it, the bearing's already a few thousand miles into failing. Here's why the timing matters. Subaru's all-wheel drive system is constantly comparing wheel speeds. A failing wheel bearing causes microscopic variations in how that wheel rotates, which the AWD system tries to compensate for. So a bad wheel bearing doesn't just mean a noisy wheel, it means extra strain on the differential and the transfer case, which is component 5 on this list. Replace the bearing when it starts humming. $300 to $500 per corner. Ignore it for 6 months and you're looking at differential damage that'll cost you 10 times that. Component 5. This one goes hand in hand with the bearings, usually between 115,000 and 125,000. Front and rear differential seal failure. The differentials in your Subaru, both front and rear, have output seals where the axles enter the differential housing. These seals are rubber. Same problem as the valve cover gaskets. Heat, time, and constant motion and cause them to harden and lose their seal. When they go, differential fluid starts leaking out. And here's the thing about differential fluid. There's not much of it in there to start with. A small leak that goes unnoticed for a few months can drop the fluid level low enough to start damaging the gears. The first sign is usually a faint, oily residue around the axle on either end of the differential. If you ever look under your car, just glance at where the axles meet the diff housing. If it's wet or dirty there, you've got a seal starting to go. The fix is a couple $100. The fix once you've damaged the gears is a differential rebuild, easily $2,000 or more. And here's where it gets ugly. Most owners never look under their car. They notice when the diff starts whining at highway speed, which is well past the seal stage, and they're already into the rebuild conversation. Don't be that owner. Get under the car twice a year with a flashlight. 60 seconds. That's all it takes. Component 6. The final piece on the timeline, and it lands right at the back end of this window between 120,000 and 130,000 miles. The oil pump and the rear main seal. By this point in your engine's life, every gasket and seal in the system has been heat cycled to its limit. The rear main seal, which is the big seal at the back of the crankshaft where it meets the transmission, is the last big seal to give up. When it goes, oil starts dripping at the back of the engine, and because of how the boxer engine sits, that drip goes right down onto the transmission bell housing. So now you've got oil on your transmission, oil on the driveway, and a repair bill that's painful because accessing the rear main seal requires either pulling the engine or pulling the transmission. $800 to $1,500 in labor alone. The oil pump itself is the quieter killer. By 120,000 miles, the pump's clearances have opened up just enough that oil pressure at idle starts dropping. You won't see a warning light unless it gets really bad, but the pressure drop means the camshafts and bearings are getting marginally less oil than they need. Wear accelerates, and 6 months later, you've got a ticking noise that wasn't there before, and you're having the conversation about whether to rebuild the engine or trade the car. Catch the oil pump issue with a real oil pressure test at your 100,000-mile service. Most owners never get this test done because most shops never offer it. Ask for it. 20 minutes of labor. If your pressure is on the low end of spec, that's your warning. Plan accordingly. So here's the picture. 6 components. A failure window of about 30,000 miles starting around 95 and closing around 125. Each one with a cheap fix if you catch it early and a brutal repair bill if you don't. And every single one is on the engineering schedule that Subaru, the dealer, and the techs already know about. They just don't broadcast it. What you do with this information is the difference between a Subaru that hits 250,000 miles like the legendary ones we talk about, and a Subaru that gets traded in at 130,000 because the repairs got out of hand. The owners who get to 250,000 miles aren't lucky. They've been running this checklist whether they know it or not since the day they hit 80,000. Now you've got the checklist on paper. If you're inside that window right now, this weekend, get under the car with a flashlight, pop the hood, do the oil cap test, and check for the early signs we talked about. 60 seconds per check. Catch any one of these early, and you've already paid for the time you spent watching this video 1,000 times over. If you haven't watched the CVT fluid video yet, that's the one that pairs directly with component 3 on this list. And it's the most important video on this channel for anyone driving a CVT Subaru. Watch it next. It's right here.